Good afternoon. My name is Bruce Adelson. I'm an attorney in the Washington, D.C. area and a former senior trial attorney with the United States Department of Justice, Civil Rights Division. I'm coming to you today on behalf of Bromberg and Associates. So as we did with our last video, this is a series of conversations talking a little bit about the reopening in a pandemic. Last week, we talked about suggestions from a federal court about following state and federal guidance about creating a safe workplace. Today, I'd like to talk a little bit more, or go beyond that, with suggestions for both employers and employees. And one of the suggestions that I have and suggestions that I give my clients, employers, is the following as far as how they should approach reopening. Have an infectious disease preparedness and response plan. Basic infection prevention procedures such as masking, in sanitizing stations and having hand sanitizer available. Policies and procedures for prompt identification and isolation of sick people. Develop, implement, and communicate with your employees and customers up to a point about workplace flexibilities and protections. And follow existing federal guidance, state and local guidance, with the federal being the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, and the Centers for Disease Control, the CDC. They've all put out some guidance that is helpful in managing through the pandemic from a workplace standpoint. Now, from an employee standpoint, let's say you have legally protected rights and you need an accommodation so that you cannot safely come to work. You have a federally protected right, perhaps a disability, that employers are required to accommodate. So as far as an accommodation, one of the things in discussing this in the legally required interactive process between employer and employee would be having additional or enhanced protective gowns, masks, gloves, or other protective equipment in the workplace. Have additional or enhanced protective measures, for example, having a barrier that provides additional separation between an employee with a disability and the employee's coworkers and the public, or increasing the space between this employee with a disability and other people. Having accommodations which can include temporary modification of work schedules, if that decreases contact between the employee with a disability and coworkers. So it's having an interactive, reasonable conversation to look for alternatives and accommodations. And I would add something I talked about last week. I've been hearing a lot and I've been contacted by people who have autoimmune conditions or disabilities concerned about being required to come to work or lose their jobs. I heard of a particularly egregious situation where a teacher with an autoimmune disability asked for an accommodation from her employer. The response was no, and that if she's anxious about coming to work, she should go see a psychotherapist who can help her with her anxiety. That's really not a legally appropriate comment. I wanted to read you some examples of what are autoimmune diseases, these and conditions. These affect literally millions of Americans. I'm just going to give you a few examples of them. Rheumatoid arthritis, psoriasis, multiple sclerosis, lupus, inflammatory bowel syndrome, vasculitis, and anemia. So these are conditions that many of us have. And under the Americans with Disabilities Act and federal law, having these conditions requires some type of accommodation between the employee and the employer. Also keep in mind that during the pandemic, science has shown that if you have autoimmune conditions, diseases, or disabilities, that may make you have a significantly greater risk to contract COVID-19. So I hope this is helpful. We'll continue with our dialogue and then move on to some additional topics. So again, thank you so much for your time today. I look forward to speaking with you again. Be safe, be well, and thank you.